everybody. We're doing another Zoomer Times interview with a very special, I call him the real estate celebrity. It's Anthony Kulp and Anthony Michael Kulp. But Anthony is well known in the real estate world because he goes the extra mile for people. We've had that experience with our administrator, Dan Verity. Dan wanted to buy a house, and boy, Anthony really showed him what it takes to get the best deal, the nicest place. And so, Anthony, I personally thank you because, boy, Dan is so excited. And you went, you took him, I don't know, how many days did it take for you to find something?
Oh, we searched for a few months. It was a few
Really?
months. I mean, they weren't pressed to get into a place, so we had that luxury of looking around, and we lost a couple properties that had gone under contract before we could write an offer. So, but it ended up, it always, when you lose a place, 90% of the time you end up finding a better place. So, and they did. They found a great place for less money.
And you know, you use the words lose a place. When I was in real estate, I never heard of that. Lose a place, maybe because they didn't have the money to put down or something, but it was never based on an availability.
Right. Well, we're in a very tight market right now. There's just not a lot of stuff on available. And if you're not aggressive, then you're going to lose it to somebody else. And that's what happened to us. Part of it was because they weren't really ready with their financing or their deposit and everything else. So, but once all that was put in place and we found a place, we went right after it, and it ended up being the best one we saw, and they got it. So.
Well, when you first talk to a potential, customer, client, you tell them all these things so they know what to look out for.
Well, you can't take somebody out and put all that pressure on them. I mean, for one, it's the realtor's just saying this. He wants us to, he just wants to sell us anything. You have to let people get out there and experience the market. And sometimes you have to let them lose a couple places, if they put in a bid that's too low, or, somebody's countering and they're only coming up a little bit. The thing is, something can sit on the market for 2 months. And if you're interested in it, there's somebody else that's interested in it. For whatever reason, that most likely it's the competition went under contract. So now that one might have been in 5th place, but the other 4 are under contracts, and that one's in 1st place. So, and people get very paralyzed by, I have to buy the right one. I have to buy the right one. Well, there's no such thing as the wrong one. It's just different, because if your number 1 wasn't on the market, your number 2 would be number 1.
Yes.
So, and people get hung up on when they lost.
Yeah. But I think something you said makes sense. Sometimes people are in a rush, or sometimes people just start looking. Now, when people just start looking, that's a little bit hard on a real estate broker because they spend a lot of time just looking and they're not really ready to buy.
Right. Well, I had somebody last week who flew down to buy something, and everything we looked at, she was comparing everything to 6 months ago, and prices changed in 6 months ago. And the things that she liked were beyond what she was willing to pay. And there was one property, we were only about $10,000 apart. And it really didn't make sense to me because the other properties that were in her price range, she would have had to put money into it and have to go through the hassle of contractors, permits, and all of that, when she could have bought this one that was done. And in the long run, it would have cost less. But she had her principle, and her principle was, I'm not spending more than this. Even though she was going to be spending money after the sale, she was not going to pay more than, and the payment that she was looking at was antiquated compared to today's, today's sales price.
So what happened?
She went home without anything. So she's going to come down. She'll come back down in the summer. And typically I'll tell people, a lot of my customers have the luxury of not having to move in right away. I'm a senior real estate specialist. I mainly deal with senior citizens. Very rarely do they have to get, they don't have to get the kids in school. They're not starting a new job. Most of them still have a home and they're buying whatever I'm selling them before they're even selling their home. So they have that luxury. So sometimes, people have to experience the market and see how fast something will go under contract once it comes on the market. There are things that are coming on the market. I called the first day and it's already under contract.
That's so unheard of. And I hear that now. It's hard to believe. So I'm going to ask you. So my guest is Anthony Michael Kulp, and his phone number, let me tell you ahead of time, 954-815-9048. And let's just talk about that. Tell us the history of what's happened. When did this all start that people can't, buy the way they used to?
Well, I think COVID had a lot to do with it, and there's, multiple reasons. The first one is more people live in South Florida than ever before, and more people live here year round now. So you don't sell your year round property as much as you do your second home or your move up property. I have several clients that moved here full time now, and the 2-bedroom condo they have isn't enough. So I sold the house and now we're selling their 2-bedroom condo. And again, they had the luxury of not having to be hard pressed to get into a place. And, but now the place they're buying year round, that's not going to come on the market. So we have that. We have people working from home. When you're working from home, you're not going to be having people tromp through your house while you're working. People during COVID put money into their home. They painted, they bought furniture, they did whatever. And we all know once we do a renovation or any kind of upgrade, we fall in love with our home again. 6 months later, we realized that it wasn't just paint on the walls. It was, I needed another bathroom. I needed more square footage. I wanted a garage, whatever the reason is. So there's some of the major reasons. And then there's a catch-22. Nobody wants to list their place for sale if there's nothing for them to buy.
That's true.
That's a big problem. And then in South Florida, there's also nowhere to build new homes. We have infill projects here and there where they'll build 60 homes, 100 homes. But, like in Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, where a lot of people are moving up there, there's a lot more new construction. So, people are buying homes. I just rented a place to a couple, and they bought a place to be built up in, I think it was Port St. Lucie. And their new construction isn't going to be done for 2 years.
No kidding.
Yeah. They have less traffic there, less congestion. Yeah. Condos have more parking, newer shopping centers, easier to get in and out of commercial property. So, yeah.
Well, what you're talking about, is it Palm Beach County, Broward? Is it Miami-Dade? Is it the 3 counties that everyone's experiencing what you've explained?
Right. When you get into Northern Palm, it's not as bad because there are still areas up there where you can build, especially when you go into West Palm Beach County. There's a lot of mega developments up there that are, 1,000 homes. And as you go, and as you go north, there's more and more opportunity to buy homes because there's a lot of new construction. New construction is going for a premium right now. There are homes selling for $1 million in an area where existing construction, smaller houses, are selling for $300,000. But because it's new development, it has amenities, the houses are selling for over $1 million. And they're getting multiple offers on places.
It's amazing. Do you wind up selling in some of these communities that are just new?
Yeah,
you take people there?
Yeah, it's a beautiful community. The house is brand new. It has all the latest upgrades, 10-foot ceilings, it has everything. But it's $1 million. The one I sold is about 900 once you add, once they add the pool in.
And what happens with the financing? Do the developers provide financing and that helps sell it?
Well, they offer it, but as soon as one sells for cash, then everything comps. They use that as the comp, and then everything can be financed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tell us about mortgage rates now. Is that a problem? Are they coming down or what?
mortgage rates are still very low. We've been through a very crazy 20 years of real estate. And because a typical interest rate with a good economy, an interest rate should be around 5%, 5 to 6%. But because of our housing market for the last 22 years, interest rates were dropped. There was a thing called LIBOR loans, which were, a very low interest rate in the beginning. And then the rate could go up as high as 13%. And that's part of what caused our housing crisis. So interest rates are low, but I think eventually to pay for all these trillions of dollars, that have been doled out to get us through this pandemic, they have to raise interest rates. So.
Right, but the interest rates, once you buy a house, that interest rate stays with you. They don't raise it once you have it.
If that's the mortgage you get, but a lot of people will get an adjustable rate if they think they're only going to be there for a certain period of time. You can get an adjustable rate mortgage for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, depending how long you're going to stay.
Oh, that's not advisable in this case, is it? Now, you would probably not suggest they do that.
Well, if you talk to baby boomers and you ask them, how long have you been in your house? My mother was in her house for 46 years. Now I think the average that somebody's in a house is 10 years. It's not a lot, it's not a very long time in comparison to owning a home. If you're getting a 30-year mortgage, which lowers your payment, and you're only going to be there for 10 years, knowing that the value of the house is going to go up, that's fine. I think that, a lot of people do have high mortgages, and I don't think it's a great thing to have a high mortgage. I think, anybody should have at least 6 months in reserves to pay your housing expenses if, something should happen. And, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people live, if they lost their job or something bad should happen, they may make it a month before they start falling behind on car payments, your home payments, and really having to go without.
Right. So, yeah, you've really explained a lot. This is Anthony Michael Kulp, and he, as he said, he is a senior real estate specialist. His phone number is 954-815-9048. I would highly recommend you call him, no matter where you're going to buy your real estate, anywhere in South Florida, and even going further up north after Palm Beach County, because he does know the market. And if he can't help you, he'll find someone that'll help you. But he's licensed, of course, in Florida, and he has his primary, I think, market is down in Broward and Palm Beach County. That's really where he excels. So let's go with some of the things that you were talking about, though, with amenities. A lot of these places have amenities. They have pools, they have clubhouses. How does that work out? Do they have to pay extra for that, or is that part of a homeowner's?
Well, if it's a single family home on its own land, they're going to pay a homeowners association. And with that, if it's a gated community, you're paying for the roads. Hopefully they're putting reserves away for the roads. A lot of homeowners associations do not collect a lot in reserves. So if the roads have to be redone, everyone's going to have a special assessment. Typically in a homeowners association, they collect enough to maintain all of the amenities, the pool, clubhouse, cut the grass in the common areas. And then if there is some sort of larger expenditure, then they'll have a assessment. Now, when in a homeowners association, you own your home. So if your home, if it needs a new roof, you're paying for it. Where in a condo association, the condo the fee is going to be much higher because they're collecting reserves, but they're taking care of everything on the outside of the property. So your insurance is going to be less. In most cases, your water, sewer, trash is included in a condo. Many cases, basic cable, and now they're even giving basic upgrade to, a couple HBO channels and stuff like that, and then internet, which really saves you a lot of money. And that's $70 a month. Starts out around $60 or $70 a month. So the other thing, people, when they're coming from the north and they're coming down, they say, well, they always say, why is the condo fee so high? Well, our insurance is high here.
Mhm.
So, and we have to have wind and rain and, the regular insurance. So, once you break it down and explain to people where all this money is going and that some is going into reserves, it's more palatable. Then they understand. It's when I show
You know,
something that has low condo fees, that's
Yeah.
when you have to look out because
Mm.
collecting reserves or enough in reserves.
Mhm. Anthony, my kids have a house in Miami and near Brickell, and they have to now have insurance with Citizens, and
Mhm.
their insurance is $17,000. I mean, it's like outrageous. And they say it's all due to the potential hurricanes and floods because they are, close to the bay.
Are they in a flood zone?
Yeah, they're right off Biscayne Boulevard.
Right, right. I have a small investment property, a small house, and my flood insurance for that house, I think is $1,200 a year.
Hmm.
And then I have, the homeowners, regular insurance policy, but I have tenants in there, so I have to pay for a landlord policy, which is a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. There's always something, but so you know so much about this. So when you have a client that you're taking around, I think the advantage of you and what you do is that you're so experienced that there are no secrets. There are no, I used to, when I sold real estate, the closings could be very, very traumatic
Right,
because things came up at the closing that nobody knew about. And I always wanted those closing papers ahead of time, but always things snuck in there.
right, right. Well, in most cases, you don't know the exact closing cost until 3 days before settlement, because you have to gather information from everybody. You have to gather it from the city. You have to gather it from the state. You have to gather it, research the title. You have to, if it's a condo, you have to get the information from the condo association. So when they say when a house or a condominium is being sold with financing, there's up to 300 people that are involved.
Oh, come on. What do you mean 300 people?
Well, if you think about it, okay, so I'm the real estate agent, right? So there's a broker, there's staff at that brokerage that's involved. Then you have the title company, you have a paralegal, you have the attorney. They have other employees who work for them that are involved. So you only think of the first ring of people that you're actually involved with. And then the mortgage company, the mortgage company goes on and on and on. And then the appraisers and the home inspection company, because you think just the home inspector, but it's not. He has his people behind him. You have the secretary, the person who processes all the information, and then it goes on and on and on. That is very overwhelming to tell a buyer. When you start telling them there's 300 people involved and it only takes one to really drop the ball, it
Right.
becomes too overwhelming.
I see. And the other thing is sometimes people sell the place, their home, but they don't want to move out right then because they need a couple of months. Do you arrange that? Is that a good idea?
No,
Uh,
you never want to. It's called a post occupancy agreement. You never, once you buy it, now you're responsible to get them out. So if they're waiting for their house to be built and their house doesn't go through or their financing falls through, then you have to evict them. And you have to go through that whole process.
oh,
Not to say that it doesn't happen. I mean, it happens, especially in this kind of market. People are willing to take the chance. But I never recommend it to somebody. I tell them you're better off postponing settlement, lock the property up so it can't be sold to somebody else. But you don't want to buy a property, then you're responsible to get them out of there. So
or they could rent while they're waiting or something, right?
good, but
Just get
still,
out of the house. But if they're going to move, they should move and not try to stay there, because I was thinking if something happened while they were there, they'd be responsible too, wouldn't they?
sure. What if they had somebody to the house and they slipped and fell? You're responsible for that.
Yeah.
What if their movers came to move them and they put a big hole in the wall while they were doing it, or they fell while they were in the house? Now you're involved in that. and your insurance is going to be involved in that.
So you say just a clean break, sell it, get out, or, that's what you advise. Well, that sounds very smart. So let's go further into this, the financing. So are people now, if they don't buy now, are the rates going to rise?
I don't think so because of our lack of inventory. And, last thing they want to do is slow the economy down too much. We're in a flux, in my opinion. I'm not an economist. I don't work for the Federal Reserve. I'm not a banker. I'm not a loan officer. But in my opinion, of being in housing for 42 years, they don't know what's happening right now. You have all these people who, have companies that can't find employees for multiple reasons. So this morning I was listening to NPR and they said a lot of women can't go back to work because there's no childcare. The kids aren't in school. There's no, a lot of childcare place. I don't have any kids, so I can't even think of what they're called, where you like preschool and places like that are not open. So it makes it difficult for them to go back.
Well, yeah, that's so there are a lot of problems, but it's really good in one way because there was a time when you owned a home and you couldn't sell it and you kept reducing the price and reducing the price and there wasn't mortgage money. I mean, I remember a lot of this. So I guess everything fluctuates.
Well, I think, I do very well. I am not complaining about money during the pandemic. I did extremely well. Every year I do a little bit better. It's, of course, it's the marketing and all of the things I do to increase my business. I've created a monster and the monster has to be fed. But I would rather make good money for a long period of time than a lot of money in a short period of time. And what I mean by that is when the market is really hot, I think that in my opinion, again, the Treasury needs to stabilize it by slowing it down a little bit and raising interest rates. And when rates are raised, that means the federal government is getting more on the money that they're lending to banks, which, the government could always use a little more money, especially right now. But to keep it at a steady pace, and so there's enough inventory and, for people to move into and keep it steady. We just have so many ups and downs. Typically every 10 years, the housing market either slows down or picks up.
I see.
And, we're quite past that now. I think since 2008, things were pretty slow for a long time. But, now we're coming into what, 13 years. So, we'll see what happens.
I'm also reading where renting is the big thing. So many people are renting now that used to buy. What do you think about that?
Well, it's even hard to find rentals. A lot of people who had their future primary here, they could not afford to carry both houses, were renting their house, and that was covering it for them. Well, now they're moving here, and that rental is now off the market. I have rentals that 4 years ago would have gone for $950, $1,000, and now they're $1,350, $1,400, $1,500. It's tough. South Florida is a very expensive place to live when it comes to housing.
Yeah, and I think that the condo fees go up so that the owners have to pay those condo fees as well as get the money to keep everything going. See, years ago, though, the renters helped pay their mortgage, and then as the properties were appreciating, they were paying for that, and that made a lot of sense. But I don't know how that is now. You can tell us.
The cost of the property is going up, but the lack of inventory is also raising prices. Where before, say, where I live, there's over 7,000 units in total. And at any given time, there might have been 500 rentals. Well, now out of 7,000, there might be 200 rentals. And of course, less rentals, higher demand, higher prices. But I still recommend to some people to rent instead of buying. If I'm a senior real estate specialist, I mainly deal with senior citizens. And if somebody comes to me and says, oh, I want to buy a place, you know, if they're dead set on it, then that's the way it goes. But I'll recommend, have you thought about renting? Because here's your cost of renting versus cost of owning, paying condo fees, taxes, insurance, a new refrigerator, you know, repairs, and any of that. And when you put it on paper, it is cheaper to own, but you have that initial outlay of money, whether it's 20%, 10%, where that initial outlay of money could possibly pay a rental for you for 3 years, 3 or 4 years, and you might only be staying in a property for 3 to 5 years. So,
And an older adult then doesn't have the responsibilities, which is very hard on them. Oh my goodness, this is broke. What do I do? Where do I go? Right. So
right.
I think you're right. So there is something for everybody. And I'm sure that you advise them correctly because, because you do have the experience, as the senior real estate specialist. But also, I just want to show everybody, this is Anthony's ad in Boomer Times. And every month, usually it changes. He focuses on one of his properties, but this particular place he was focusing in on Leisureville, that's very popular with older adults. That's a very good thing.
Yeah. That's where I own a property there.
Uh-huh.
I
And
bought
there's one in Pompano, and then there's one in Palm Beach, in Boynton, isn't there, or Delray?
There is another one in North Palm Beach County, but I bought it as an investment, but it's also a future primary. So
What does it rent for typically?
Well, I rented that one right away. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage. It would typically rent for around 1,900, but I wanted to get it rented right away, so I rented it for 1,700, and it did rent right away. It rented in less than 30 days.
Okay, and the person has to be over 55 to live there. I know that.
Correct. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of safety and security, and so Leisureville, it's an older community, but I'm sure you have upgraded everything, and so you have it done. But people can buy if they want, and not rent. Of course, that's what we were talking about. If there's anything even available.
Right. And Leisureville was a sleepy little community. You know,
Yes, it was.
It would be empty all summer, but now when you drive through, the homes are about 2/3 are people's primary residence.
Mm-hmm. So things do change, and so 954-815-9048. That's how you're going to get this charming, smart man. He says, buy smart, sell smart, live well. Yes, and also we didn't cover, I think we're just about out of time. We didn't cover the fact about having pets. That's another thing that sometimes places, they aren't going to take pets, and but sometimes they will. And Anthony will make sure if you have a pet that he'll figure out how to get that pet in there. But Anthony, we do appreciate your coming on and being so smart for everybody, because when people listen to you, you do give them lots of ideas. And so if hopefully they're going to you for the real estate knowledge, but if they don't, at least they have the right questions to ask other realtors if they're getting along. But I suggest that you call Anthony, because I personally know so many people who just loved what he does for them, and we're very fortunate that he works with Boomer Times. Thank you, Anthony. It's great. Enjoy yourself till we talk to you next month.
All right. Well, thank you.
Good luck. Good luck with everything. Bye, everybody.